In the fabled land of Northern California, nestled in the Valley of Sacramento, two friends begin a journey to enlighten the world about their experience living life as a Xennial. But what is a Xennial, you may ask? If you wish to know, then follow them on their adventures.
Welcome to the Xennial Chronicles. This is Jay.
This is Mike.
And today we're going to talk to you about some more personal stuff. Not too personal. I'm not going to tell you like my shoe size. And no, that's not indicative of anything.
Oh, okay.
We're going to talk about some...
He's going to give away his... he's going to give away clues to his internet password.
No.
His one password for everything.
Actually, funny enough, I actually have like 15 different passwords I have to know.
You have to now.
Well, no, I maintain like six different email addresses.
Good Lord.
And let's not talk about the number of cards that I have in my wallet that I need pins for.
I think I have like 3 or 4. I have 3 or 4.
Well, I have one for me. I have one for each of my kids. I have one for this. Well, we both technically have one for this.
I was going to say that's...
And then I have another one for me. And then...
Yeah. I mean, I have my junk mail one. I have my serious one. I have my one attached to like my phone accounts. I have the one that's like, there's a bunch of them.
Yeah. Too many nowadays. But no, that's not what we're not talking about those things.
Everybody's got those though.
What we're doing is I had the idea this weekend as I was just doing some of the various things I was doing I like sharing some of the things that I like with other people. We've done a lot of that on here. We've shared some of the things. We've talked about movies a lot. We've talked about music a lot. One subject we haven't talked about a lot, which is a near and dear to my heart subject, books. I'm an avid reader. I love consuming media in that way. I've finally bit the bullet again, and I am reading through the Game of Thrones books again.
Oh, okay.
I tried reading the first one years ago and absolutely hated it. My wife watched the series, so I got to see parts of the series.
You got to see all the rest of it.
So I'm like, she saw it through. I saw parts of it, and I'm like, you know what? I know it happens roughly in the books, but I'm finally going to try to sit down and read them. It's been tough slogging because I don't like the writer's style.
Yeah.
And it's just not as interesting to me as other writers and other books. But I'm an avid reader. This is one of the places where, by the way, Mike and I kind of differ. Mike is not necessarily as avid a reader as I am.
Yeah, I was going to say, I am not very much a reader at all. If I read anything, not that I'm against it, I'm absolutely not. I just haven't, in the middle of everything that I've done, that I've been doing, that I've been working with, I just felt like I've never felt like I've had the time to read. Well, and the last time I read was probably in high school.
That's actually true for most people
at the time.
That's true for most people. I can tell you there's a specific reason why I read as much as I do. When I was a child, the only way that I could get my mother to not have me do chores and work around the house or go pick up a glass for her that was 5 feet away from her, but she didn't want to get off the couch to get it. So she called me from my room to come pick it up and hand it to her. The only way to get out of those things as a kid was for me to read. Books were actually one of the few things that I could ask my mom for that she would buy me at any point in time. Normally, like, I go to the grocery store. I got to choose the food I wanted, the snacks and stuff I wanted within reason of price. But you didn't get toys going to the grocery store. You didn't get anything like that. That was all saved up for birthday and Christmas. There was no toys any other time. And my birthday is in the summer. Christmas obviously is in the winter. So every 6 months I got stuff, and then the rest of the year I got nothing. Because that's kind of the way my mom worked. All that stuff is saved up for just those 2 times of the year. Yeah. But books I would get at any time. And sometimes she'd buy me large amounts of books. I remember one time there was a sale on it was older books that were just had nice newer covers. And it was at like a big box store, like a Sam's Club or a Costco style store. And I'm talking they were Robinson Crusoe and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and those type of books. And she bought me like 10 of them. They were all different books, but yeah, there's Jules Verne thrown in there, all that stuff. She bought me like 10 of these at once. And they were only like maybe $2 each. So it was a really good deal, but she bought all of these because she wanted me to have them as good stuff to read. I mean, I read Moby Dick when I was like 7 for fun.
I'd never actually read Moby Dick, and I've always been interested in reading it. I just never have.
And it's not that good.
Really?
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
like one of the
okay.
most transferred stories.
It is.
Like,
It is
to
and, I
film
mean,
medium.
The thing is, if you know the gist of what the story is, the writing itself is kind of boring. That's part of the problem with a lot of books is the stories may have import. They may have some cultural significance, but the actual writing of the story and reading that writing can be a little tough to slog through at different points in time.
Okay, I can understand that.
Then again, for some books, the actual reading of the book and the way that it was written and the experience that you have while reading it is even more important than what the cultural significance may be. It sounds weird to say that, but a book like Hermann Hesse's Steppenwolf, most people aren't familiar with that book. You've probably never heard of it. You only know of Steppenwolf as a DC villain and a band.
Yeah, those are the only two.
That's probably the only.
I figured it was taken from somewhere. But I didn't
actually,
know.
It's a Germanic lore. The Steppenwolf is a Germanic lore thing, but I don't know enough of my Germanic lore to explain exactly what it is. But it is something from Germanic lore, and it's a German novel.
Oh, cool.
Hermann Hesse is a German writer, German novel. I read it in senior year. Admittedly, it's not one I've retained all the information from, but I can say the book is basically like having a good acid trip.
Okay.
And it's a weird book. It's a very strange book, but the reading of it is in many ways more the experience than anything the story sits with you. It's just a very interesting book to read. Again, sadly, I don't remember enough of it. I just remember enjoying it and how interesting it was.
Huh.
But anyway, the point here is we're going to share some things today. I'm going to start where I'm going to share 3 books that I like personally that I would recommend for people to read.
Okay.
3 movies, some of which I've already talked about before, but I'm just going to say 3 movies that are just fun to watch, in my opinion, on a Saturday afternoon or something where you're sitting at home relaxing. That's kind of my whole idea. Is this? I didn't get to relax this Saturday. I had an event I had to go to this Saturday, but sometimes on a Saturday, I like to just be able to sit and relax. 3 books you can relax with. 3 movies you can relax with, and since music is another topic we talk about, 3 artists that I think might be a little below the radar for most people. These are at least 2 of my artists are artists with some semi-famous people in them, with some or bands, I should say. 2 of the 3 that I'm listing. Okay, they're all 3 bands. One of them actually has a number of well-known musicians in it, but most people don't know this band because it's kind of a super group, but not necessarily all that super. Okay. I think they're super, but most people don't even know about them.
Okay.
The other one is a group that's had some success, but not huge success. And the other one is just a fun random pick. But the point being that these are things that maybe you could enjoy on a Saturday afternoon. I've enjoyed all of these things on a Saturday afternoon, so I'm just sharing. So which would you like me to start with, sir? I'll let you choose. You want to hear about the books? You want to hear about the movies? You want to hear about the music?
Yeah, I have a couple of books that I think would.
Oh, you have some books.
I have some books
so
or some short stories.
Do you want to go back and forth on this?
I would like to go back and
forth.
Okay,
so you want to do
it.
the books first?
Yeah.
Okay. You want to lead off, or you want me to set up with my books?
You know what? I think I will. I think I'll start.
Go ahead.
And this is some stuff that mainly, like I said, I haven't really picked up a book since high school, but all the stuff that I have on my list is stuff that I read in high school. And I remember being completely enthralled in it. And it's just, honestly, this is more like a wish list for me. Like, stuff I think that would be cool to pick back up and read again.
If you had a free Saturday where you weren't, I don't know, out fixing areas of your backyard to make a cool new
ruining my hands.
Yeah, a cool new hangout place. If you just had a Saturday where you didn't have to do that, or you weren't working at your one of your other things, you weren't doing music somewhere, doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If you had a Saturday afternoon, you'd try to read these maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you got?
Well, there's a lot of larger stories, but so I'll start with the short one first.
Yeah.
I have always kind of been into fantasy lore in general.
Yeah.
But the original short stories from way back, like talking like Germanic stuff, medieval stuff, is one of the foundations for that. And everybody can turn around and quote Tolkien or something like that. But personally, I go way farther back than that. One of my favorite stories that I read in literature was the story of Beowulf.
Oh, did you
Like-
read it? Did you read it in Old English?
Read it in Old English.
Yeah.
It was a challenge and a half to read.
Yeah, it's
and
something else.
we obviously had our English teacher with us to kind of help interpret what was going on. But every word that I read on that page as broken up and as kind of almost open to interpretation.
Do you want me to give you some good news, sir?
What?
I have a version of it.
You do?
I do.
Is it like a more
No, it's
recently
No,
translated?
I have the Old English version of it.
Beautiful.
I actually took a British literature class in college back years ago.
Cool.
And the textbook that I have from that has that in it, and it also has Chaucer's the Canterbury Tales.
It was,
But yeah, I have the copy of Beowulf that you could. So
Cool.
I can hook you up to be able to read that again when you decide you want to.
I would love to. It was actually really cool because the teacher that we had, and I can't remember the name to save my life. It's been so long, but I remember that they started us off and were giving us it was just a Old English literature in general. So we read like a couple of Shakespeare stories. We read Hamlet, and we read. Romeo and Juliet was
almost everybody
a little bit,
dies.
Yeah, pretty much.
Romeo and Juliet, less people die.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But we read Hamlet, and then we read Romeo and Juliet wasn't the one at that. No, it was Hamlet, and then Taming the Shrew is what we read in that class, and then we went to Beowulf afterwards.
Nice.
And so it's just like, hey, okay, you guys have gotten an introduction to,
so
how to reinterpret language that's older than what you're used to reading.
Okay, he was moving you slowly back in time.
Yes.
Instead of, because technically Beowulf came way before those.
But he was
trying to get you acclimated to a different version of English first.
Yeah.
Not bad. Not bad.
And I remember just being wholly fascinated by Beowulf, and the one of the big things was the bragging that happens in the story.
Yeah.
It's talking yourself up so much before you go do the job you say you can do.
Yeah.
To paint yourself as this, he painted himself as this superhuman character with all of this embellishment before he even went to go handle the task.
Yeah, that's how the ancient hero fables
Yeah,
work.
they're all like that. It was really fascinating to see, and this was the first major example of that. I would love to just go read that again.
Well, in Northern European literature, yes, it's the first major example.
Yes.
Previous to that, you have the all of the Greek mythological stories. You have Odysseus and
I never read Odysseus.
The Iliad and all that. So
that was actually the ancient Greek literature. I remember hearing about it, and I remembered hearing about people reading about it in high school and stuff. I never read it.
Yeah, because the Homeric epics, the epics
the Odyssey,
by Homer, the Odyssey and the Iliad, those predate Beowulf by about 1,300 years.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. I'd love to crack those open too. Just take a look. But yeah, Beowulf is my first choice.
Okay. I feel a little strange because my stuff is a lot more modern than that.
Which is cool. I do have the other two ones that I have are very modern.
And Beowulf, by the way, has had many movie adaptations. The CGI rendered movie that Zemeckis did, about 15 years ago or so. 20
it's been a while.
It's actually a pretty decent adaptation. You have to get past the Polar Express effect because he was using the same technology that he did with Tom Hanks in Polar Express. But it's a pretty decent film.
Cool.
My first one to recommend to you is probably my favorite book of all time. It was made into a film a few years ago. An abysmal and awful film. Please don't watch the film. Go read the book. It's a book called Ender's Game.
Oh, I've heard of it.
Yeah.
I have heard of it. I do not know much about it at all.
It's the start of a whole series of books by author Orson Scott Card that take place within this one universe. The books have some lofty ideas and things that they talk about. They get into some of them get into some pretty interesting scientific stuff because it's very sci-fi. This first book, though, he had originally done it as a short story and then expanded it into a full novel length. I think the biggest thing is the way it treats children in the book. the protagonist, Ender, his real name is Andrew, but he goes by the nickname Ender, is like 5 years old at the start of the book. And I'm not giving too much away because this happens within the first chapter, but he beats a kid nearly to death that's bullying him. This kid has been bullying him.
Oh, and how old is he?
7.
Oh, okay. So this is a schoolyard fight, essentially.
In a sense, but he beats the kid nearly to death. In fact, give it away, you do find out later in the novel that he did kill the kid as a result of the beating.
Good Lord.
And it really deals with kids as having, these are hyper intelligent kids that have been trained from a very early age and selected by the government for a very early age to be part of a military program fighting off an alien invasion, a second alien invasion.
Okay.
So it's to protect the Earth. So
Gotcha.
they do things that maybe are a little bit questionable, but it takes and treats the kids in a way that kids aren't normally treated. Kids are normally considered simple in their thought by adults. They don't normally think that kids could have any complexity to their thoughts and the way that they do things. And it really delves into that more complex mind, gives kids far more dimension than what most books give to kids. Most books anything just doesn't give kids enough of again, mental dimension. And this really delves into it. It's a really interesting coming of age style novel.
Interesting.
And interesting in the way that people can be mentally manipulated for good and for bad. Mm-hmm. And how much it also dwells on nature versus nurture, and so many different things involved in one book.
Yeah,
and it's actually often used in military officer training because of there is a heavy military aspect to it, and how they train people to do things that you wouldn't consider normal for people to do. To have that mindset to do the things that a military requires people to be able to do.
Wow,
really, really good book. Funny enough, my second selection is also used in military training stuff because it has a similar mindset.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, your second one, sir.
My second one is going to be a book by Ray Bradbury. Probably the most famous one.
Which one?
Fahrenheit 451.
You can do Fahrenheit.
Yeah. I read that one.
I just want to say real quick, anything by Ray Bradbury is flipping amazing.
Yeah.
Especially his compilation books, Golden Apples of the Sun and... Martian Chronicles.
I'm going to have to look those up.
Those are compilation books. They're short stories within those books, all compiled into one.
Yeah.
It's not the through narrative that Fahrenheit is.
Yeah.
But, Bradbury's so amazing.
Dude, this was like one of my this was my main introduction to sci-fi.
Good introduction.
Yeah. It's the first book that we read, and there was a sci-fi fantasy novelization class, and the first semester,
I want that class,
concentrated on sci-fi, and the second semester concentrated on fantasy. And in fantasy, we read The Hobbit. We read halfway through the first book of Lord of the Rings because it was so huge, but we couldn't. I
mean, at that time, at any time, what's the best thing for fantasy? That's
pretty much like that's the introduction to fantasy. Period. But with Fahrenheit 451 was one of the books. We actually read that one. We read another book I'm going to recommend. And we read also read 1984.
Wow,
all in one class, in one semester. We slammed those things, and I couldn't put them down.
We should make 1984 required reading nowadays. But anyway,
well, it was reading. So it was nice optional reading in high school.
1984 was one that we had to read, and so was Animal Farm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Orwell. But anyway, Fahrenheit. That's a great book.
Yeah, Fahrenheit's a fantastic book. For anybody that doesn't know, it's about a guy who does he work for? Yeah, he works for the firemen, doesn't he?
He's a fireman.
He's a fireman. Okay, so this guy is called a fireman, but basically it is a dystopian future novel, very similar to an Orwellian type of future where information is controlled by the government, and the way that they control information is they have rendered print media to be illegal, and so books, newspapers, everything is illegal when it comes down to print media because you can share information like that cannot be regulated, quote unquote. So what they do is the firemen are somewhat of a military police force,
That's a good description.
That is meant to, instead of being firefighters like most people consider them to be, the firemen are a group of military police that find and arrest people for holding libraries in their houses, secretive information, similar to the SS searching for Jews in the 40s and 30s.
Well, and there's some even more interesting
in Germany,
ties.
yeah. And the idea is that I believe
the firemen basically
isn't it the statement, who controls the past controls the future, who controls the present controls the past? Is that 1984, or is it this book? I think it's this book.
I'm not sure. I would have to look that one up.
But it's a statement. I actually I read the book before I started listening to Rage Against the Machine, and I was like, whoa, like these guys like know what they're talking about. And essentially what the idea is that they
real quick sidebar, you
yeah.
realize how educated Tom Morello is.
Oh yes, very much so. No, he has a I believe he has a bachelor's in world history or political science. No, he has a bachelor's in political science.
He is a well-educated person.
Yeah. So he basically, with Fahrenheit 451, what it's about is these firemen are
they burn the
books. They find these libraries. They burn the books. They burn the houses they're in. They help arrest who is harboring this information because the government is trying to control the mindset of the people via misinformation. And what they do is they are manipulating history based on what they want these people to know. So they change history as it goes. One of the things, one of the biggest,
hold on. I wouldn't say too much more. Let people be able to get more from.
Yeah, I love the huge amount of plot twist. It has been interpreted into a movie.
It's been interpreted into a bunch of movies. It's been made into a movie multiple times.
Okay, the most recent one I have not seen and I want to see. I did see an older version. They actually had us watch the
old version, the 70s
old version. Yeah, the 70s version of it. We watched that one in high school in the 90s. It was but the new one with Michael B. Jordan I heard was fantastic, and I want to see it.
I haven't seen that one. What? Just so you know, paper does not burn at Fahrenheit 451. It has to be hotter than that for it to burn. So you can put paper in your oven at 450 degrees, and it's okay. It's not going to burn up.
That's funny.
That's one thing. The number two thing. One little note that was interesting. The people in the book get their information, get their media through little. They're described as seashells in their ears.
Yes.
This was written well before earbud headphones had ever existed.
Oh, yeah.
And this is just one of those examples of something being written about in sci-fi and technology eventually catching up and creating something that resembles it. These little seashells in their ears. That's the way he had to describe it. The writer, Bradbury, had to describe it because there was no description of earbud headphones.
Right.
So it's kind of a neat little side note for that book. That's a great book.
Yeah.
That's a great book. And again, anything by Ray Bradbury. My father's favorite book is Golden Apples of the Sun because it's a compilation book. It's a bunch of short stories, but he was a great writer.
Yeah.
Okay, my second one is a book by an author named John Steakley. This is another book that's used very heavily, again, in military training stuff. Mm-hmm. The book is called Armor.
Okay.
And again, this is a sci-fi because I am a big sci-fi guy. So all three of the books on my list are sci-fi books because that's, even though I read a lot of fantasy, the ones that stuck with me the most are the sci-fi books. This is another one about human race fighting against alien invaders, but in this specific fight, they are wearing mech suits. This is one of the early novels dealing with mech suits.
Oh, cool.
This is right. This is around the same time that the original Starship Troopers, Heinlein's Starship Troopers novel, because guess what? Starship Troopers was a book before it was a movie, just so you know.
Well, yeah.
But this is about fighting in mech suits.
Okay.
For half of the book. Mm-hmm. The other half of it is, how do I describe it the right way without giving too much away? These scientists that are on a remote planet find one of these suits, these exosuits in some kind of a vehicle. They find this exosuit, and they're able to watch the recording of this exosuit. It's got a recording chip in it that records everything that happens. Yeah. That happened with the person wearing this suit.
Okay.
So they are following the recording of it to find out what happened to the pilot of the suit, the guy that was in the suit. the soldier that was in it. And so half of the novel is this soldier who goes by the name of Felix, doing his battles against these alien creatures. And for some reason, all of our aliens are bug-like. In so many sci-fi novels, aliens end up looking like bugs, which actually makes no sense physics-wise, because you can't have giant insects by the way their bodies are built. Their outer carapaces, their exoskeletons, couldn't develop that size. It'd be too much weight. Their legs wouldn't be able to move them.
Really?
Things like spiders. You couldn't have a giant
can't
spider.
necessarily, like, those bugs couldn't proportionately
Too heavy.
grow?
Which is, no, too heavy. The things become too heavy. The body can only support so much. Think about an elephant, right? Heaviest land mammal that we have is an elephant. How big are those legs to be able to support the elephant's weight moving around? We're talking legs that are like, 10 inches, 12 inches in diameter to be able to support all of that weight. Even bigger. I don't know. I haven't been that close to an elephant.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
Actually, it's why the theory started to run that dinosaurs must have had hollow bones, because for something like a Brachiosaurus, long neck with the nostrils.
Oh, you're
up
looking
top.
at the muscle mass that would surround the neck, wouldn't be able to support it if they were solid.
Just all of the weight that would be necessary to be able to carry that bone structure and all of that, they would have to have something different with them that they couldn't. By the way the physics work, when you scale things up size-wise, if you go twice in size, you're actually going like 4 times in weight.
Wow.
So you're creating so much more mass that the supporting of that mass needs to have the proper structure to support all of that. And the only way typically to do it is to make that lighter.
Wow.
Or huger.
I did not know that.
So like spiders are a very good example. Giant spiders would have a lot of trouble existing. Do you know how spiders move their legs, for instance?
Like, as far as like what order they move their legs
Well,
in?
no, if you're moving your leg, right, you're contracting muscles and tendons and moving joints, right? Spiders don't have muscles and tendons in their legs.
So they're all moving them from the hip, essentially, right?
It's connected to their body. They're all connected to their body. The way that the legs move up and move around, it's actually hydraulics. It's blood flow in and out of the legs that makes them move and contract.
Whoa.
They move their legs through hydraulics. So to scale that up to too big of a size would make it difficult for them to work.
Right.
Because it's too much fluid having to go through there to make the hydraulics work for the legs.
So it would move slower, and you would have severe structural integrity
issues. Same things
issues.
with insects. You're not going to have a 8-foot tall ant carrying that huge body carapace. It's too much weight.
Right.
But anyway, it's sci-fi, so it doesn't matter.
That's kind of cool, though.
Back to the point of the book. Like I say, half the book is him and them watching the recording in the suit of armor. The other half is them dealing with problems on the planet that they're on.
Okay.
And one of the guys that's checking out the suit of armor is a wanted criminal who's hiding out on this planet. And it's a planet owned by some freaky drunk dude that likes to go pee in public all the time.
That is a very strange description of a person.
Well, he's a very strange person. And so it's a really convoluted novel. It shows you, again, the military mindset and what has to be done for that. But it also shows how war is can possibly drive you crazy and make you have some issues. So that's my second one.
Huh.
We've only gotten through 2 of the books, man.
I was going to say, this might be a little bit more. We said
let's hit our last. We
said books, movies, and music, right?
Yes. Let's hit our last books real quick, and then we'll take our break.
Yeah. Okay. So my third book is Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke.
That's one. To be honest, I am a bad sci-fi person. I have not read any Clarke.
You should.
I know I should.
You should.
There's
it's worth it.
4 or 5 that I should read, and I've not.
This is actually about I feel like I'm giving away a lot of huge plot spoilers, but basically, this is about an alien race that comes to Earth and makes first contact with Earth, and over decades worth of time, they essentially unite the government and help bring about world peace, and just like everything disappears because they show them the history of the world via a machine that can allow them to see at any point in the past. So and we're talking like this essentially destroys religious structure. It destroys governmental structure. It destroys racism issues. It destroys world peace and war issues.
I'm just saying right now, this is definitely a book I need to read.
And I'm not even getting into the major plot points of it, but that's the beginning of the book. That is what happens in the beginning, and there is just so much more to it. If I were to continue to describe it, I would give away too much. But read it. Okay, you need to read it. It's a fantastic book.
That's one I'm going to go for then.
Yeah.
Okay, my final one. It's a book I've recommended to you before. Mm-hmm. A book I would recommend to most anybody, especially anybody that's really into computers or computer gaming of any type.
Okay.
It's a book called Snow Crash.
Okay.
It is a book that is... part of the thing about this book is it was written in the 1980s. Mm-hmm. So it was written before the invention of the internet.
Okay.
It was written before the invention of online internet gaming.
Okay.
Like World of Warcraft or any of those where you select an avatar for yourself and you walk around within the thing and whatnot. By the way, the use of the word avatar in all those games, every single one of those online games that you play, comes from this book. Now, the word avatar existed far before this book, but to use it in descriptive for the character that you play in an online game that represents you, or even the avatar pictures that you have on your social media platforms and whatever, the usage of it in that context
really
comes from this book. More importantly, Google Earth, the ability to look at Google Maps and Google Earth, comes from this book. And a program that exists in this book called Earth, that he's able to look at satellite feeds and see direct satellite feeds of what's going on at that moment in time. This came out before Google Earth was even thought of, and when they made Google Earth, they were basing it off of what this book's description of the Earth program was.
That is awesome.
So this book is, again, pre-internet. It talks about the it's a, again, post-apocalyptic style future where governments have lost their power and corporations actually are completely in power and have their own city-states within the government of the United States. So if you cross a line, you're into the mafia's city-state.
Yeah.
You cross another line, you get back into the U.S. government city-state, then you cross another one, and you're into another city-state owned by another corporation.
Yeah.
But the main character of this is a gentleman named, he's half Japanese, half African-American.
Okay.
His father fought in World War II and was near Nagasaki when when the bomb was dropped on Nagasaki.
Whoa. Okay.
His name is Hero Protagonist.
Seriously,
Hero Protagonist. That is his name. He starts the novel
off.
No, I'm not even joking with you. He starts the novel off as a pizza delivery driver.
Okay.
And it is a pizza delivery car that pulls up to the pizza place, and mechanical arms put the pizza into an area in the back of the car that's a warmer and a heater to keep it warm. Now, when Domino's came out with the pizza cars that had the things on the side, I was like, oh my God, it's the Deliverator's car. And he's literally called the Deliverator. And the first 2 chapters are him delivering pizza, and it being, if pizza isn't delivered in a certain amount of time, because the mafia runs all the pizza places. So if the pizza is not delivered in a certain amount of time, the people who are getting the pizza and they don't get it on time get a free trip to Italy, and usually the deliverators end up disappearing. He gets a pizza.
So it's mob mentality Domino's?
Yes. He gets a pizza that's supposed to be delivered in 30 minutes.
I don't think you're kidding me.
No, it's supposed to be delivered in 30 minutes. That's the normal delivery time. Yes, it does the 30-minute Domino's thing from back in the day.
Good Lord, okay.
It's supposed to be delivered in 30 minutes time. It's sitting at like 25 minutes. And he's 12 miles away from where he has to deliver it, something like that. So he has to gun his way to it. And this is the first couple chapters. This dude starts the hero of the story, literally the hero of the story,
right,
starts the book as a pizza delivery guy. He's also the best hacker in the world, the best code writer in the world, and apparently the best sword fighter in the world.
This is just too much.
This book is so amazing. The bad guy in this book is an Aleut, a native from the Aleutian Islands near Alaska.
Yeah.
Whose mother was caught in one of the nuclear test explosions in the Aleutian Islands. So he's considered to be mutated from his mother having radioactive fallout. He's described as having no neck. His shoulders just angle into his head.
Uh-huh.
He's like 6.5 feet tall, and he has the words "poor impulse control" tattooed on his forehead. He kills people by throwing spears at them and cutting them with glass knives.
Whoa.
Because apparently glass knives can get so sharp they can even cut through the bulletproof fabric of this book's universe. Also, he has electrodes hooked up into his head that are connected to a MIRV warhead, a nuclear warhead that he got off of a Soviet submarine, that if his brain activity stops, the warhead explodes. He carries it with him in a sidecar of the motorcycle he drives around. So he is a nuclear power.
This is so ridiculous.
This novel is amazingly ridiculous, but it's so great.
Yeah, it makes me want to read it.
The biggest thing you need to understand, though, again, reading it is pre-internet, so its version of the internet is wildly different from what we have, but at the same time, you can see how the people that put the internet together, put all these games together that are all of these online games that you play, they all read this novel as inspiration.
Wow.
The people who originally were setting these things up read this novel, because as you read through it, you'll be like, oh, they must have got this from that. They must have got this from that. It's in that circle of programmers, hackers, that type of thing. This is like a book. And it was a guy who's into computers, our computer guy, Rob, who actually originally turned me on to this book. Amazing book.
Okay.
So we're going to take our break now.
Okay.
When we come back, we'll try to be quick with our 3 favorite movies. And we should just be able to, at least mine, I can just say the names and I shouldn't have to do much more than that.
Okay.
And then our three bands that are not favorite, but our 3 movies we're recommending for you and our 3 bands we're recommending for you.
Cool, man.
All right. Talk to you in a bit.
Hey friends, this is Mike from the Xennial Chronicles reminding you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Xencron, spelled Xenchron, to keep up to date on all things TXC. And please check out our official website, theXennialChronicles.com, or if that's too much to type, Zencron.com. Thanks again for listening, and now, back to the show.
And we are back. I want to say I'm excited because when I originally pitched this idea to you, you were a little iffy on the books situation just because of not being the obsessive reader like I am. And I would say obsessive. There was a time in my life, when I'm a big Potterhead, Harry Potter stuff.
Yeah.
When the last Harry Potter book came out, I literally told everybody that I knew and was talking to regularly at the time, like, don't talk to me for that whole day. I don't want to hear anything from you. I told my wife, I'm not taking care of the kids. I'm not talking to you. I'm not making dinner. I'm not doing anything until I read this book. I am sitting down and I am reading this book.
Wow. Okay.
I went and got it the day it came out, sat and read it all the way through, threw it across the room a few times. And hey man, there were people that died in that book that should not have died in that book. I don't think it's a spoiler at this point, but Dobby, seriously, Dobby, Zach, you've probably only seen the movies, so you don't know how close Harry and Dobby had got over. They cut all of his stuff out of the movies.
Oh,
but him and Harry had gotten
he was still super loved though by like everybody.
Well, that's because in the books they had gotten really, really close. They had gotten like super close. Dobby had even helped another house elf who had been kicked out by her family, like recondition herself and be another free elf with him. But like there was so many things going on with that, and so when Dobby dies, that's just like, seriously, of all the people you can kill, I hope Bellatrix has terrible bad things happen to her because she killed Dobby. That hurt me more than just about anything else. Dobby was Harry's friend. Just saying. Anyway,
damn,
that's like
you are very.
That's like he loses his owl and he loses Dobby. That's like his two pets, basically. Although Dobby was more a friend than a pet, but still, isn't dog supposed to be man's best friend?
Right.
Harry didn't have a dog; he had a Dobby, and Dobby got killed. Look what happens. Look what John Wick does when his dog gets killed.
Yeah.
That's what I'm just saying. Dobby was even more than that. So, anyway.
Okay.
Now we're going to talk about the movies that we're going to recommend. We got the books down. We each said our 3 books that we're recommending for people. These are some movies that we're going to recommend. And again, with movies, we talk so much about movies. I'm not looking here for movies that are like the big flash ones. I mean, like right now, if I had the opportunity to sit and watch a movie on a Saturday afternoon, I'd be watching Avengers Endgame again because I absolutely love that movie.
Right, totally.
But these are things that, like, if you happen to catch this on, as you're flipping channels and it's on your paid channels on your cable or whatever, your satellite, whatever you have for your TV feed, or if you see it on one of the streaming services that you use, these are some movies that I think would just be a fun Saturday afternoon that most people normally wouldn't watch.
Okay, I gotcha.
Because, like, if you had Avengers Endgame, you'd go and watch Avengers Endgame.
Totally.
But if you had, we'll start with the first one on my list.
Okay.
This one I know you would watch. At least I hope you would watch. Because I know you've already said you want to watch it again.
Okay.
Because it's been so many years.
Right.
This is one I've mentioned multiple times on the podcast because it is one of my favorite movies. Mm-hmm. And it is Josie and the Pussycats.
Of course.
I really
I'd
love
watch it
this.
again.
I love this movie, and I think people should watch it just because it seems like just some fluff movie, but it is a really smart film.
Yeah.
It really is. It's got many smart things it's trying to say. Plus, it's fun to look back at the old days of live streaming of a concert on a web page. It's hilarious. So late 90s, early 2000s. Very funny. What do you got for me?
The first one I would go with is something that I've recommended before.
Okay.
As well.
Is it an animated movie?
It is an animated movie.
Gosh.
I'm going to get the animated one out of the way, and then we'll have the more rare ones after. The Dark Knight Returns. It is it's an animated 2 series. It's based on the Frank Miller comic. The thing runs total around 3 hours. And I have it on Blu-ray, but man, if you get your...
So it's like watching Endgame.
Basically, yeah. It did get released in 2 parts. Yeah. So you'll probably see it in 2 separate parts on like Netflix or something.
Yeah.
But The Dark Knight Returns is a really, really good story overall.
I will agree with you on that.
Peter Weller's the voice of Batman. Come on,
I've seen it, and it's a really good take on it.
Yeah.
Really good take. Dark, but very good take.
Yes, very dark.
I mean, the subject, the
very
original
80s
subject was,
too. It's very 80s, like dark 80s.
And because that's when it was written.
Yeah, it's got this Terminator vibe to it,
I was thinking it definitely fits in with the vibe that The Watchmen had, which makes a lot of sense, considering they were made at a similar time frame.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's what I would go with. That's what I'd say.
See, it's funny. You're serious. Normally, I think in real life, maybe I'm the more serious one than you. You're the more fun one. Maybe not.
I don't know. I don't know.
I guess we have equal balance.
Kind of we're about the same, I would say.
Okay. Because normally I would be picking serious things, I would think, but I'm picking the fluffy, fun things. So my second one would be another movie that I've mentioned multiple times that, again, most people would just view as some stupid fluff movie, but it's actually, again, a really intelligent movie. Spice World.
I knew as soon as you picked Josie and the Pussycats, Spice World wasn't too far off that list.
Spice World was coming too. It's a fun little romp, but the thing about it is what they're trying to do, there's a rich legacy, especially for British bands, of doing movies of the band.
Right.
They are making this movie of themselves, and there are moments in there that is purposely poking fun at them and poking fun at the whole genre of bands making movies about themselves. They are making a parody, almost a respectful parody of themselves and of Hard Day's Night, Yellow Submarine, all of these things that the Beatles did.
Yeah. They're totally going with that vibe too. That's what
they know that they're not putting themselves, they're not trying to put themselves on the level of the Beatles.
Right.
They're making theirs a parody version that is paying homage to those things, but saying, "Hey, no, we're not the Beatles, guys. We're just a fun group of girls having a group that we sing and we have a lot of fun with. It's fun. It's happy.
Totally.
It's an escape for an afternoon. Enjoy it. Watch it. Hilarious moments.
Yeah."
That's and Meatloaf cameo. Anything that's got a Meatloaf cameo in it.
Oh,
that
throws Pick a Destiny on the list then.
Well,
One of the best Meatloaf cameos ever.
better than Bob, better than Robert Paulson.
That wasn't so much a cameo because
Well, no, it wasn't a cameo.
he was a
full-on
major
role.
plot point. Yeah,
right. That's a full on role.
yeah.
I mean, who can forget Robert Paulson, right?
His name was Robert Paulson.
It was.
Also, the name of one of my favorite voice actors.
Yes. Rob Paulson's actually a great voice actor.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I love him.
I like his work as Spike in the Land Before Time movies.
What was he? Spike?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. I have to go back and
of course,
and
what's
watch
funny
it, yeah.
about that is what does Spike say? Absolutely nothing. He just grunts all the time. That's why I'm saying it's his best work. Anyway.
I was like, I thought Spike was like the mute one.
Yes, Spike is the
But
mute
yeah, he
one.
does grunt. Like, that was about it.
So, your second one.
My second one is an old kung fu movie from the 70s.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me. Which one are you throwing out?
The Five Deadly Venoms.
Okay.
Have you ever seen it?
No, I have not, but
Okay.
I think I know which one this is.
Let me paint this out for you because it's awesome. Okay. The Five Deadly Venoms is a story about, it is part kung fu movie,
Yeah.
part murder mystery.
Well, that's always nice.
So it has the whole murder mystery vibe to it, and it's about a group of different it's a group of different assassins. They're all kung fu based fighting styles, and all of them are actually characters named based on the fighting style that they use.
Okay.
So they have the frog, they have the monkey, they have the snake, and they
Yeah.
have all this. Now, there is one of the film's protagonists is the actual antagonist who is running around murdering the other guys, and none of them know who it is. So the idea
Nice.
is, it's a whodunit the whole film. The greatest part about this, though, is the fact that you don't have a true clue as to who it is until the end of the film, during the big climactic fight, because all of them start fighting each other trying to find out who is who. And so there's a bunch of infighting between these assassins. And some of the murders don't happen from the actual antagonist, which is kind of cool. So this is a very chaotic type of a film. And you're sitting there glued to it. What's crazy more than anything about it is most of these kung fu movies don't have a lot in the way of character development.
No, it's just
an excuse to watch a bunch of these guys fight each other.
Or it's the hero is trying to save things. He loses a battle. He has to get up the gumption to fight the final battle and prove himself and whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay. What was this one called again?
It's called The Five Deadly Venoms.
Come on, I'm looking this up. Keep talking.
Yeah. So you actually start to see, like, I started seeing actual character development happen as they're trying to figure out what's going on with this. It is just overall, it's a really cool film. And one of the biggest things that this is known for is its fight choreography is fantastic. The stylistic fighting between all of the characters and how big each of the characters are on screen, just like the personalities of these characters are just fantastically done. Everything about the film I really, really like, especially in the confines of a foreign 70s kung fu film. It's one of the staples of kung fu movies.
Yeah.
In general, like, this thing is held on a pedestal similar to like a lot of the classic Bruce Lee films.
And
Bruce Lee films broke the friggin' rules in kung fu films, man.
No, they did, and I just looked this one up because I'm so intrigued by it, and it's one I've never seen anything about before. I am going to find this to watch it because
it's worth it.
It just sounds interesting as hell.
So if you see this thing on Netflix, or you find it at like a bargain bin in like a used movie shop or something, go buy it. Go get it. Find it somewhere and watch it.
Do you
It's
have a
really
copy
good.
of it?
I do.
I'm gonna have to steal it.
Yeah.
All right,
I'll let you borrow it.
That brings me to my third one. Mm-hmm. This is the one that I've not really talked about a lot. This is one that's a newer movie, fairly newer movie, and I found it to be my happy movie. This is a movie I watch when I'm feeling down, feeling like I'm having a bad day or something, and I'll watch this flick because it's got kind of a feel-good story to it.
Okay.
Interesting to note about this movie that it is an unusual thing in that you see a lot of movies that have to do with cooking, right?
Yeah.
See a lot of movies that have to do with restaurants and that kind of stuff. Like movies that have to do with medical stuff or movies that have to do with military stuff.
Okay.
Not all of them get the stuff right the way that
Right.
it's supposed to be done.
Right.
Like when you see a movie or a TV show where they have people working in a kitchen, very rarely do they get it right.
Right.
Are the people actually making the food the way that it should be made? This specific movie, part of the making of it was to make sure that the cooking that was done on screen was perfectly right, exactly how the food should be cooked. Everything you saw on screen for the way that they cooked the food
Really?
was planned out by, I don't know if you're familiar with the famous chef, the professional chef, Roy Choi. Do you know him?
No.
He's known for it's a taco truck that he started with. Now he has a bunch of restaurants.
No.
I forget the name of the taco truck. He actually has it tattooed on his arm, but he's a very famous chef in the LA area. He started with, he worked in other restaurants, got all kinds of classical training.
Yeah.
And then he became famous for this taco truck that he had that expanded out into a bunch of other things.
Okay.
He was brought in as a consultant and stayed through the entire film, and everything that you see cooked in this is his recipe for cooking the things.
Oh, really?
And he
Okay.
instructed the actors in it. It's a movie called Chef.
Never heard of it.
Fairly newer movie, released I think straight to Netflix. I don't know if it went anywhere else.
Oh, okay.
Here's the cast though. Main character, Jon Favreau.
Okay.
Scarlett Johansson has a small role in it.
Okay.
John Leguizamo is basically the second main character.
Cool. I like practically every. It's weird. John Leguizamo normally, like aside from like The Pest, I think I like everything he does.
My favorite thing actually was Tu Wong Fu. Thanks for everything, Julie Newmar.
Oh yeah,
his
a
role
great
in that is
actor.
fantastic. Although Wesley Snipes outshines him in that movie, but that's
But he's
just 'cause-
still. I mean, he's
that's
still
just 'cause
awesome. Yeah.
Leguizamo's awesome, but Wesley Snipes in drag is just like, damn, he pulls that off. Wow. And because you don't expect it from Wesley Snipes.
Right.
If you know Patrick Swayze's history, you expect it from Swayze.
Okay.
But I mean, he has a dance history.
Right.
So you expect
Which
him
is
to be
really
able to
weird
move
to see him
properly.
like when you see when you know that he's a dancer and not a fighter.
Yeah.
And you see Roadhouse, you then see all of the dance moves he's pulling off
Yes.
in order to like
Make it look like he's a
the
fighter.
roundhouse kick. That's just like the full like,
Yes.
ballerina
Like-
spin.
Like, he learned it in taking ballet, which is not a bad thing. It's just you can see the form is not necessarily martial arts form. It's much better
It's
form
dancing,
than
yeah.
yes. It's much more of a dance form.
Yeah.
But anyway, now Leguizamo's kind of the sidekick in this.
Cool.
Sofia Vergara has
Cool.
has a decent role.
This sounds okay. I kinda wanna see this
and
now.
Robert Downey Jr. has a cameo.
Nice.
So
Okay.
it's playing basically Robert Downey Jr. / Tony Stark. He's basically playing that part
Tony Stark is Robert Downey Jr. with money and a metal suit.
with more money.
yeah.
Not just more money.
With like a ton
although
of money.
Actually, at this point, maybe not more money because he got a lot for Endgame. But it's about a chef who kind of breaks down. He's working in a place, and Dustin Hoffman even has a cameo role at the beginning.
Dude.
And Dustin Hoffman is an ass in the movie. He's a total ass.
Really?
It's a total departure for Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah.
Because normally he's a fairly nice guy. He's a total ass. It's about a chef who's kind of stuck in a rut. He's divorced from his wife. He's not communicating and connecting with his kid. And he ends up trying out having a truck serving, oh God, I can't even think of he's serving Cubano sandwiches out of the truck.
Okay.
And he just tries to do that as a change in his life because he's hit rock bottom with his career and everything. And it's a road trip movie. It's a movie about him being able to connect with his kid. It's a movie about him finding the joy in the thing he does in life. He simplifies his life and finds joy. And it's so, at the beginning of it is so tense because he's going through his breakdown, but then the rest of it is so uplifting. There's even a few moments of fun. Jon Favreau being of the age of more Gen Xer age.
Okay.
He's introduced to social media by his kid. He makes a ton of mistakes on social media, but then learns how to manipulate it and use it to help with the truck.
Cool.
And it's a feel-good movie, great movie. Makes me want that sandwich, even though I've never wanted one before. And just everything they do on screen when they're cooking, perfect, exactly how you should cook the food.
Wow.
And that's Roy Choi making sure he wanted to make sure that if he was helping on the movie, everything they did had to be perfect.
Did he direct it? Or
No, he was just a consultant.
Favreau
Favreau directed it.
Oh, cool.
'Cause Favreau does
so
that
he's
now.
working directly with him and going, okay, this is what we need to do.
Well, that's Roy Choi being brought in and said, the only way I'm going to do this is if all the cooking is right. Then, after this movie was made, Roy Choi and Jon Favreau did a Netflix series where they recreate all the recipes. They cook them in real time. Well, not entirely real time, but they cook them like a cooking show does for you while for you to watch them actually cook out the food.
Oh, cool.
And then they go to a bunch of different people, friends, celebrities, friends of Roy Choi, friends of Jon Favreau.
Yeah.
These different celebrities to cook with them. They do
cool.
cook with Gwyneth Paltrow at one point, who doesn't remember that she was in Spider-Man Far From Home. She doesn't remember ever having met Tom Holland. They do have a dinner with Kevin Feige, the head of Marvel Studios, and Robert Downey Jr. They
Cool.
have a dinner with him at one point. They go around to a bunch of different people like that and see and do stuff with for this chef series. So
Cool.
you're not just getting the movie. You can actually watch this kind of Netflix series as well. But it's just a great feel good movie. And by the end of it, you just feel happy about life. You feel like you could take on what you need to.
Cool.
It's a nice film. Your third one, sir.
Okay, yes, we have done the two. Okay, this one here is just a straight. It is anybody who grew up in the 80s or the early 90s. It is their childhood. It is what their idea of a good movie would have been as a child.
Oh, boy.
Kung Fury. Have you seen this thing?
I think so, yeah.
It's about a 45-minute short film, right? And it is everything that...
Wait, hold on. Is this the Odenkirk movie?
No, I don't believe
Okay.
so. I don't think it's Odenkirk. No, this was actually put together as I think it was originally written as a college project, and then it was an independent short film that came out on like YouTube, and it's on Netflix as well, I believe, still. It is available on YouTube. It's about 45 minutes, and it is insanely, like, continuity be damned. It is just, they are working on a full sequel to it right now after the craze that was started with the original film.
Are you sure it's called Kung Fury?
Kung Fury.
Doesn't come up on IMDb.
No, it should. Try Googling it, because it's...
I will. Go ahead. You keep.
Yeah.
You're keeping.
Try
our time,
Googling it.
sir.
It's an independent film that is just rife with everything that you could think of, any idea that you could have come up with for a space-age kung fu movie. And I'm talking, dude, cops, robots, dinosaurs, hacking, time travel, aliens, just Nazis, everything that you could possibly put into something that a dude could fight all at the same time is in this film.
I'm finding it.
Okay, good, because if I got the name wrong throughout this podcast, I would have had my foot in my mouth the whole time.
It has Hasselhoff in it, right?
Hasselhoff is, I don't even think he has a cameo. I think what he does is he sings the theme song for the film at the end of the movie. And it is everything that you could, like, it is fan service and cringe.
Oh, Jorma's in it.
And everything in it is just so ridiculously over the top that it's just so much fun to watch.
Oh my God. Well, was this?
As a matter of fact, there's a sequel, I believe, that's been confirmed, and I think Schwarzenegger's supposed to be in it.
Yes. And I'm just wondering here.
It's supposed to be a full-length sequel to it. And it is everything you could think of is just bad. Like, there's a character in it named Hackerman, mullet, glasses, Nintendo Power Glove on one hand, and his purpose is just to be like he's just there to progress the story along as is necessary.
Is David Sandberg Andy Sandberg's brother?
I don't know.
The only reason I'm
Possibly.
asking is because David Sandberg is the director of this and the writer, and Jorma Taccone from Lonely Island is Adolf Hitler in the movie.
I didn't know that, but I would figure that probably it's got to be some relation to Andy Samberg.
I mean, there might be. It is just last name. So.
But yeah, just dude, it is. it is every bit of fun. Like, just watch this movie with your kids and see it for yourself first to see whether it's appropriate to see with kids. But it is just 7-year-old, like your 7-year-old brain just like explodes watching this movie.
I'm gonna have to watch this movie.
It's worth it.
I guarantee it's gonna be something that when I'm watching,
it was like an internet craze a few years ago, and
my
I
wife
watched
is
it
probably
on
gonna make
accident.
fun
I
of
was
me
like,
when I'm
"This looks
watching it."
dumb. Let's watch it." Like I'm sitting there watching it with my wife, and we were just glued to the screen
Wow.
for the entire film. Just like, this is the best, most ridiculous thing ever.
Wow, I'm gonna have
Worth
to watch
it.
that now.
Kung Fury, yeah.
So we've told you some movies. Now let's get quick into the final thing.
Yeah, let's make these ones a little quicker.
This has a little bit of explanation to it. These aren't necessarily our favorite bands. These are just some bands that most people maybe don't know, haven't heard of, or haven't taken the time to listen to, that we think, again, lazy Saturday afternoon, take some time to listen to these guys.
Yeah.
So I'll start again. Mm-hmm. This is a band that's one of my favorites. I may have mentioned them before. I think we mentioned them when we mentioned our albums that we liked. I mentioned one of their albums.
Yeah.
But it's a band called Blue October.
Heard of them.
And they had a hit maybe 10 years ago with the song Hate Me, which is probably their biggest charting song. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, they're a Houston, Texas area band. They're well known in that area. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, they have fans throughout the U.S., but it's not a big named band, not something that is well known by a lot of people. And it's one of those bands it's adult contemporary style rock. So it's fairly easy to listen to. It's not anything too heavy, anything like that. But it's just a nice, enjoyable band. It's one I like to listen to when I want to feel. Definitely gives me some positive feelings, positive vibes.
I'm definitely breaking off from you on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
This one's
You going dark?
No, Lord, no. You don't want to sit there and sulk listening to music, like spending a Saturday afternoon. I mean, I get it. Some people do, but my stuff is just for the sake of something interesting, stuff that people may be familiar with.
Yeah.
I got a couple of ones that are pretty cool. I'm going to start with I'm going to end on one note. So I'm going to start with the real musicians, quote unquote, of the list that I have.
Okay.
Oingo Boingo.
Points for that, sir.
Now, for those of you that don't know who Oingo Boingo is,
stop listening to us. We don't want you to listen anymore.
So anybody who doesn't know who Oingo Boingo is probably familiar with their lead vocalist and one of the main songwriters of the group, Danny Elfman. Danny Elfman is most famously known for quite a few film scores.
Basically scoring everything that Tim Burton does.
Yeah, pretty much. He did. He is the singing voice of Jack Skellington. He is the composer for all of the music on The Nightmare Before Christmas.
He's also the singing voice of the Oompa Loompas in the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. That
makes sense.
Yeah,
and he did
all
that.
The music.
Yeah, anything that Tim Burton has been about pretty much ever since the two of them got together. Danny Elfman's been the composer. I believe he was the composer on Edward Scissorhands.
Yes.
He definitely was on the Batman theme. The Batman theme everybody remembers from the 90s that was part of the animated series is Danny Elfman. He composed all that stuff. He also composed the theme to The Simpsons.
Yes.
He has done
Men in Black.
He did the theme to Men in Black.
Yep.
He did, anything that's that bouncy, upbeat, orchestral kind of stuff. That's Danny Elfman.
And actually, I don't know how familiar you are with the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie. I don't know how many times you've watched it.
Never seen it, unfortunately.
Depp's take on Wonka is actually closer to the book, and it's something.
That's
freaky.
what I hear. That's what I hear.
Freaky.
He's very that's one of the things I hear, and I want to see it because of that.
But the Oompa Loompa, all the Oompa Loompa songs, when you see it, I want to hear what you have to say about it because they were very reminiscent of Oingo Boingo music.
Cool.
Very much so.
Oingo Boingo is I don't think they're together anymore.
No.
Were a fantastic band. Their biggest hit, I think, came from the film Back to School. They had a huge, I think Dead Man's Party is in Back to School.
I think so. They actually, interestingly, they had
Dead Man's Party, Who Do You Want to Be? They
had a song on the Ghostbusters 2 soundtrack.
Oh, cool.
I only know that because
they rose to a pretty decent level of prominence in the 80s, early to mid 80s. And then from there, I think once they hit about the 90s and Danny was starting to do film score stuff all the time, they kind of broke up, I think.
I don't know if you remember that TV show. Damn, I don't remember. It was like, it was about a teenage girl. Her dad was like some alien thing, and she talked to him through some glowy box on her nightstand or something. You know what I'm talking about? Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
I don't remember the TV show.
One of
I don't
those
remember
cheaply
the name
produced 80s series.
But I specifically remember, just because the name Oingo Boingo is such a strange name.
Yeah.
And again, they were on the Ghostbusters 2 soundtrack. I was a Bobby Brown fan at that time.
Okay.
And I got the Ghostbusters 2 soundtrack because he had 2 songs on it.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing the song. I liked the song they did on the soundtrack, but like anytime you'd hear that name mentioned, and so to be relevant, that show was talking about her she mentions going to an Oingo Boingo concert.
Cool.
And so it always stuck out in my mind from that show. So they were big enough to be on a TV show at one point in time.
Yes.
Although I do remember Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Remember that show with Melissa Joan Hart?
Yeah.
They actually meet the Violent Femmes, which is hilarious.
Okay, that's cool.
Oh, it's very funny.
Yeah.
The Violent Femmes are hilarious.
I will.
people.
You know what? On my next, I'll try to keep the Violent Femmes in mind. The next couple of bands in the final band, because the Violent Femmes are tied to it. If you remember, I will remind you, or I will explain that.
Okay.
So remind me, and I will.
So now it's me for my second one.
Your turn for your second one.
This is one that actually I got to see. First time I ever had any introduction to them was in a concert. Was it a show? Not a concert, but a show. Mm-hmm. They were opening for one of my favorite bands, Volbeat. And what was interesting about them is it's a super group, but it's not a super group most people know. Had Scott Ian in it.
Yes.
Rob Cacciano. Were you there the first time I saw them, or were you there the second time I saw them?
I think it was the first time.
Were you at the Sacramento show or the San Francisco show?
San Francisco.
Second time we saw them.
Oh, okay. So you'd seen them before.
We saw them like a couple of days before.
Yeah, because I remember you telling me about them going, whoa, dude, these guys are fantastic. You got to check them out. They're nothing like either band's material.
It's also
so cool.
It had Scotty in. It had Rob Cacciano, both from
Anthrax.
From Anthrax, although Rob's now with Volbeat. And then it had the drummer. I think his name is Joe Hurley, I don't know, the drummer and the guitarist from Fall Out Boy.
Yes.
And then the bassist and the lead singer were from another band. I don't know the other band. But the band's called The Damned Things.
Good band.
And
I remember seeing you showed me the music video beforehand.
Yeah,
it was great.
They put
We've got a situation here.
Yes, funny music video. But they put together this Andy Hurley, Joe Troman.
Oh, okay.
I think from Fall Out Boy. They put together one CD that they put out, one album that they put out, and it was just an amazing moment of. It's really almost, I don't even know how to describe it, but it's hard rock, but it's got a groove to it.
Cool.
And it's just one of those things just to sit back and listen to. Nothing like any of the other bands using it. It sounds nothing like Fall Out Boy. It sounds nothing like Anthrax.
Yeah.
It's just a straightforward rock band.
Yeah.
And I mean, another nice thing was when we saw them in concert, technically speaking, my wife caught a pick flung from Scott Ian.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Especially how she caught it.
I'm not going to. James is giving me a hand gesture that I will not share.
She'll know if she listens. She'll be like, "You said that on the podcast." Yes, I did.
Well,
so we
didn't really say it.
Not really. No video.
The speculation is ridiculous right now. I'm sure to anybody who's listening.
But again, it's a great album, great band. If you ever get the chance to listen to them, who's you got for your second one?
Well, this is where I go into strange, uncharted territory that I'm sure that you're not going to like.
Oh no.
My first of these types of bands is called Dread Zeppelin. You ever check them out? You ever hear them?
Is it a Led Zeppelin cover band?
It is a Led Zeppelin cover band, except there's far more material than just the Led Zeppelin stuff. So Dread Zeppelin is this is the weirdest mashup band I've ever heard of. So what they are is they are a reggae Led Zeppelin cover band with an Elvis impersonator as their lead singer.
I'm actually down for this.
It is everything is very cheaply produced. there is not a lot. Like, they've done their studio work, right? And they've got their recorded music sounds great. All of their music videos look like trash, but that's the point.
Okay, I'm down for this only because it probably sounds better than Led Zeppelin.
It's I guess there's my opinion would differ, but it's very enjoyable to hear a lot of these bands, a lot of this band's material, just because it's such a strange, different take. And these guys made a killing in the 90s because they were the first type of mashup group like this that existed, that were a direct parody that just brought together so many things that aren't supposed to work and make them work. They had a huge nerd following, I would say, for sure.
You know, as I'm thinking about it, I may have heard of them before, but I'm not positive.
They're good, man.
I'm going to look into the stuff now because.
And here's the thing about the Elvis impersonator is. The band itself is like a traditional reggae style band. I mean, half the band are white guys, the whole Rastafarian get up thing and all that.
The dreads and all.
Yeah, the dreads and all of it. Good band, really good, solid band. Elvis impersonator, exactly what, like, take an Elvis impersonator, okay, your image of an Elvis impersonator.
Because my image is fat jumpsuit.
You hit the nail on the head. Now take him and make him just about homeless cheap, okay? So, cheap sunglasses, his sideburns are electrical tape, his wig is just about to fall apart, and
this actually makes me think of what would happen if we wanted one of our. All I'm thinking of a friend of ours, closer friend of yours, somebody who was spoken about maybe guesting on the podcast at some point. If he ever decided to dress up as an Elvis impersonator. This is how I think he would dress up as an Elvis impersonator. Could you see him doing it though?
Yeah, I think I would see me doing it first, and I did.
Okay. I know you did
at Halloween. I played a Prylosa show where I dressed up in a Fat Elvis getup with sideburn sunglasses and the like. Man, like my sunglasses had sideburns on them.
I remember seeing that.
I rocked that and surprised the living crap out of everyone that was at that show. They were just like, I didn't know you had it in you. I didn't know I had it in me either. We did good, though. It was a good show.
Speaking of which, by the way, this year for the first time ever, I will be dressing up not the first time ever, first time in a long time, I'm actually going to be dressing up for Halloween.
Nice.
Not much of a dress up, but still a dress up.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah, I'm down. I'll be wearing sweatpants and a gray sweatshirt.
Nice.
That's it.
What is that?
Oh, and some black sunglasses.
What?
I'll show you later.
Okay.
Anybody else that knows my size and my beard would guess what it is, possibly.
Okay.
But anyway.
Rick Rubin?
No.
Okay.
But anyway, so Dread Zeppelin. I'm definitely going to have to look into this one. All right. My third one. Here's I'll admit I'm kissing up a little at this moment in time. I'm trying to, as I told Mike before, I'm paying some bills here.
Okay.
But
paying some bills. Okay.
While I like the lead singer's first band better, if y'all haven't listened to any music by a band called Digital Havoc, they're a pretty good band.
I'm flattered, sir. Thank you.
Their album that they put out, it's very interesting in the sense that it's a very thematic album, and it's definitely one of those worth listening to front to back, the whole thing, just so that you can get kind of the theme involved in it. Take a lazy Saturday afternoon, listen to that album. It's a good thing. And hey, see them in a show when you get a chance.
Yeah.
I'm saying that to you, even though I haven't had the opportunity to see them in a show yet, but still. Give it a whirl.
The name of the album he's talking about is obviously my band's first album. It's a conceptual album. It's called Welcome to the End. You can look us up on Spotify or on YouTube, or we're like available on like Amazon Music and all that kind of stuff. So
see, I'm showing the love.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Bills. I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. So yeah, go check it out. It's called the name of the band is Digital Havoc. And the album is called Welcome to the End.
I just want to say I'm not just saying it just to help you plug stuff.
Yeah,
it actually is a good album to listen to.
Thanks, man.
It really is enjoyable. Again, I kind of like the other stuff, but this one's good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, so I'm going to end this one on a band that is...
I'm just telling you right now, my third one was better than yours.
Thank you. I don't know how to take that. The band that I'm ending with is another mashup band.
Damn.
Yes. There's a tie-in, like I said, to the Violent Femmes a little bit, which is something that I heard a little bit more recently when I saw them at a show last year. Okay, so the name of the band is called Beatallica. They are a mashup group that is a combination of the Beatles and Metallica's music thrown in together, and you can get an idea of what they sound like just by the song titles themselves. Got to Get You Trapped Under Ice. And Justice for All My Loving. They did one that's actually just called Sandman, which is basically a combination of Enter Sandman and the Beatles' Taxman.
Okay.
All at one.
I mean, I get the Metallica thing, but
Yeah.
to sully my Metallica with Beatles.
Shut up and listen. So the name of the band is the name of the band is obviously a mashup.
Yeah.
But the mashup is all of the names. Okay. Ringo Lars, Cliff McBurtney, James Lenfield, and we're talking. The set pieces are Master of Puppets crosses along with the Yellow Submarine. They're doing the. You've got James Hetfield's White Explorer with John Lennon's scribbled face from, his post-Beatles stuff, scribbled on one face of it, along with some of the other words that I'm not going to mention on the podcast.
EETFUK.
Yes, that's there too.
See, I spelled it out for you.
Thank you.
I'll say it.
I know you will, but I don't want to work on this too much, man. Not so much editing. But the idea is that these guys are, and there is a huge story behind these guys, by the way. I may have gone into this beforehand. Basically, these guys started out of Milwaukee as part of what's called the Milwaukee Spoof Fest, which is literally a spoof festival. It is a musical spoof festival.
So wait, they have a musical spoof festival and all the beer?
And all the beer.
Well, not all the beer, but like the good beer.
Yeah. Yes.
Like St. Louis, Missouri.
No, I want to go to this one of these years because these guys every once in a while will play, like they'll tour every once in a while. I actually saw them on a tour with Oakley Dokley, who is a Ned Flanders themed death metal band. Yeah. These guys opened for him. They were absolutely fantastic. I loved them. I actually bought a copy of Abbey Load when they were there. They signed the copy. Yes, I called it Abbey Load.
Yeah, I get it.
And it's just what you think.
I get it. I get it.
For whom Michelle Tolles is on it. It's a great. I love it. But basically, these guys started out as a first album called. They started out as with the first album called.
I gotta ask on Abbey Load.
Yeah.
What is the cover art?
It is actually the four Beatallica members walking across the Abbey Road crosswalk.
They really missed out. It should be a bodily fluid stain on the crosswalk of Abbey Road. I'm just saying. That's
right.
If you're really embracing this concept, you need to have body fluid staining the crosswalk. Now that makes sense to me. That would be funny. That I would be like, dude, these guys got finger on the pulse. Finger on the pulse.
Well, they do quite a bit.
But no,
so
their finger wasn't on the pulse.
Yeah.
You know where their finger was? As far as possible from the pulse. Would you like a chocolate pretzel?
Well done.
Thank you.
So these guys started in the Milwaukee Spoof Festival as a bootleg CD produced by a couple of dudes. One guy was essentially the voice of James Lenfield, who is a perfect rendition, a practically perfect rendition of beer-swilling James Hetfield of Black Album and Justice Metallica lore. Like, when you listen to it, it's not that you wouldn't tell the difference, but you definitely appreciate how close he is from these old demos to this cheaply garage-produced EP. And it is it's those different songs that I was talking about, those titles, that's how they started it.
Yeah.
And what they did was they infused Metallica lyrics on top of Beatles compositions in Metallica's musical style. And they really like jam them all together and make this very nice mashup of all this stuff. Like, if you're familiar with both bands, you'll either absolutely love what is being done or absolutely hate what is being done.
I get it.
But here's what happened with them. So they did that first. They ended up accidentally, this is back in like 2002. They ended up accidentally gaining a cult following, and their stuff was ripped and then thrown up on the internet via torrenting, people sharing this music with friends. And they ended up finding out one day that they ended up getting this huge following online, and somebody started a website called Beatallica.com. Their first album was just called Metallica Plays the Beatles. They called it A Garage Day's Night.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
And then the second album, which was the second quote-unquote bootleg unofficial album, they called The Grey Album, which was self-titled Beatallica.
That's okay. See,
yeah,
that's
they really got that's some finger on the
pulse
pulse stuff, and the artwork was great. It was very Pusshead style, like on the first album, very scratchy. Pusshead meets James Hetfield chicken scratch type of scary guy stuff. I thought it was great. Anyways, what they ended up doing with Beatallica was it started gaining such a huge cult following that Sony sued them for defamation of the Beatles' music. And so what ended up happening was Metallica got wind of these guys and were just like, we love them. This is fantastic. They're not hurting anybody. This is great. They're not selling the music. They're not making money off of it. Let's just let them do their thing. Well, then Sony sues Beatallica, sends him a cease and desist and says, hey, you're hurting our cause, you're hurting our music by making this parody. And the problem is that it's legal. It's actually not a parody, technically speaking, because they're not parodying the Beatles. They're actually more so parodying Metallica using the Beatles music to do it. So it's some form of satire. Well, satire is not technically legally allowed in the same format that parody is. It's not the same thing. Weird Al can do this legally all day long. He just asked for the artist's permission because of his integrity.
Yeah, he wants to be polite with the people.
He wants to be polite with the people that he's parodying, so he does that.
Yeah.
He gets the okay before he releases anything. Well, Metallica was all about it. They're like, this is great stuff. We love it. Well, Sony didn't like it so much.
Yeah.
So Sony will act on their own with their lawyers without the say of the Beatles, because the Beatles don't have a say. Remember, they don't own their rights. So
call back to previous podcast.
Right? So what ended up happening was Metallica gets wind of them and goes, excuse me? So they find out that they're getting sued by Sony, and Lars comes to the rescue. No joke. Lars goes, we ain't letting that happen. Here, you've got my team of lawyers defending you now. So he sicks his lawyers against Sony's lawyers, and the two of them
I'm just saying, we need to get a midgety Danish friend. I'm just saying that, all right? We need to find some midgety Danish guy and become friends with him. I've only met two people from Denmark, and both were like really nice people.
Isn't Lars about my height? He's like 5'6", isn't he?
Like I said, midgety.
That's very offensive.
I'm the same height.
Okay.
I'm referring to myself.
Okay.
It's okay.
How dare you? Chris, super awkward silence.
I mean, be quiet, Ginger. Anyway, like I said, I met two people from Denmark. Mm-hmm. They were both in bands, in the same band, and they were really nice for the short time I met them. And they were friends with Lars.
Cool.
But that's as close as I got to having a midget Denmark friend.
Oh.
So anyway, so they get Metallica's lawyers. That's nice.
They got Metallica's lawyers. Yeah, to help defend them in court. What ended up happening was they came up with a compromise, and it required that the band be signed to a label so that they could register the music, and both parties could actually benefit from the music being released. They have since released 3 or 4 albums.
So wait, so are you saying that Sony is making money off of these guys because they're using Beatles stuff.
Yes.
And Metallica is making money off of these guys because they're using Metallica stuff.
Yes.
And these guys are making money.
Yes. They're making money touring. They're making money selling music and splitting royalties and all this kind of stuff. It's actually legally handled now. And they've been doing it. I think this legal battle and all this stuff happened like 2008. Because what ended up happening was these guys ended up getting popularity. They started touring because they're just like, dude, this is kicking off. Let's do it.
If you've learned anything, people listening to this podcast, if you've learned anything, retain the rights to your music.
Oh, totally.
Well, actually, whatever you make, as far as the media thing that you make, retain your own rights.
Yeah.
Because if not, somebody else is going to make the money. So, and you said these guys were originally found in Milwaukee?
Yeah, these guys are originally from Milwaukee.
You know where the name Milwaukee comes from, right?
Isn't it native?
Yes, Milwaukee.
What does that mean?
Sorry, it was just, I don't remember.
Oh.
But that's as far as I remember of the Wayne's World quote. So,
It's been a long time since I've seen Wayne's World.
It's when they're hanging out with Alice Cooper and they think it's going to be like some party, and Alice Cooper starts talking about the natives,
like world history and politics and stuff. Yeah,
sorry, that's as far as I got with the quote. I thought you'd be.
I think they're like discussing philosophy with him and stuff.
Yeah,
too,
I
right?
thought you'd catch it sooner than that, and I wouldn't.
My favorite memory of Weird Al, sorry, it mixes with Weird Al. My favorite memory of Alice Cooper is when he's singing Dankeschön with Weird Al Yankovic at like a golf course or something like that.
I have not seen that. I want to. Because, Alice Cooper's just a really normal guy, and he does the stage presence, and then he's just a normal guy again.
Oh, yeah. One last thing before we end this out.
What?
The tie-in to the Violent Femmes I was telling you about. Oh, yes,
the Violent Femmes tie-in.
So their current producer and their current guitar player right now, who plays Gerg Hamilton, is the guitarist for the Violent Femmes.
Who's the guitarist for the Violent Femmes? The only one I know in the Violent Femmes is Gordon Gano. He's the singer.
I don't know the guitarist's name.
Oh, okay.
But I'll have to look it up after. But yeah.
Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah, I found that out from James when I went and saw him. I was like, dude, it was great. I went and
nice.
I saw him. I met him. He's totally cool stand-up guy.
Now, who's this that you're talking about?
The guy who plays his character's James Lenfield.
Ah, okay.
I met him over at the show with Oakley Dokley. I was able to kind of like fanboy at him a little bit, be like, dude, I've been into you guys since the Grey album. I was like, it's so cool actually finally seeing you. He goes, that was the beginning. I was like, I kind of know that. It's like I had garage days like way back in the day too, but I was like, this is great. He was like, dude, right on. Oh, and so I bought him a shot, and he signed my CD, and it was like super fun, man.
Did you buy him a shot of Jack?
No, Jameson.
Well, that's good at least.
Yeah, I bought him a shot of Jameson. That's what he wanted. So
that's good.
Yeah.
So wait, I can tell you which one to buy me. Because all you ever bought me is a
if
shot
I'm
of
offering
Jack.
a shot, yeah. Well, no, I mean if I'm getting a shot of Jack, whatever. But yeah, be like, hey, I'll get you a drink. What are you having? You don't just force a drink that somebody doesn't like at them. That's just rude.
You do if it's Southern Comfort. Sorry,
no.
Private joke, people. All right, so that'll do us for
I've
today.
been betrayed many years ago by this man.
Multiple times. Here, drink this, sir. What is it? Don't worry, you'll like it. Damn it, James.
And this is our history is complicated.
It has its moments. All right, thank you all for listening today. Mike, you have some new news for us.
I have some new news. So we've been trying to figure out how to get us on iTunes and on Apple Podcasts and all that kind of stuff for a little while. Well, I just tried this out, and check this out, ladies and gentlemen, whoever is listening. If
aliens too, we're okay with aliens.
Aliens as well. Anybody, animals. So check this out. I actually just checked this. I just did this on my Apple Podcast on my iPad, so I know it works. If you open up your Apple Podcast, you can subscribe to a podcast via URL. I did not know this, and maybe many of you do. But I'm kind of fresh on the Apple stuff, so I'm still trying to figure it out. However,
I'm still trying to figure out URLs. So.
Yes. So check this out. If you go to our main website, obviously, is the XennialChronicles.com. If you actually to subscribe to our podcast, you can subscribe to the URL theXennialChronicles.com/feed/podcast. If you type that in, we will pop up in your Apple Podcast, and you can listen to us every week when we put our stuff out on Thursday morning.
That's fantastic. So
Yeah.
it's basically kind of a backdoor into being on the Apple stuff.
Yep. And by the way, you can listen to us, obviously, at the XennialChronicles.com. If you want to shorthand the website URL, it's Zencron.com. Speaking of Zencron, you can also search us via Zencron on Facebook and on Twitter.
The person that's in charge of the Twitter account and supposed to be posting things on Twitter has been lax at their job. The beatings will be starting for that person very quickly. and they will be getting on the ball. Otherwise, they will be in lots of trouble.
Yeah. Dang it.
I hate that fat guy.
But anyway, so we do
I see him.
We do have that stuff. Also on our YouTube as well. You can check us out. Actually, we archive our entire podcast library on YouTube. So if you are missing any of this stuff, you want to check us out from literally episode 1, you can hear all of them on our YouTube. Just type in the Xennial Chronicles on YouTube search and you will find us. And the more subscribers we get, the closer we get to, I believe 100 is our minimum, and we can get a custom URL for YouTube. And that's our first goal. So if you're listening to this podcast right now, go to YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel,
please,
so we can get that custom URL started.
That would be awesome.
Fantastic.
Apparently that's an important thing, according to Mike.
It is.
All right.
Just for shorthand search, man, so that we can say, hey,
Makes
link
it
us up
easier.
on YouTube rather than this random jumble of letters and numbers.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you all for listening. Oh, you forgot also, I'm cutting you off, I guess. You can also find us on Spotify, right?
We are on Spotify. We are on TuneIn. And if you type in that URL,
Google.
we're on Apple Podcast. And we are on Google.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, thank you all for listening, and feel free to comment, and we'll talk to you again next week.
You guys have a good one.
Thank you for tuning in, friends. The journey continues next week.